just in. Breaking news, our top story tonight, Ripple's price continues to surge, leaving many investors questioning why they never invested in Ripple. Oh, fucking banks. Next up, many projects are moving over from Ethereum to a new platform. That's right, it's out with the old and in with the Neo. Also tonight, Bitcoin Cash. Sup? And finally tonight, EXMO CEO kidnapped in Ukraine, which will not be changing my travel plans of never going to Ukraine. All of this and more tonight on Crypto News. We've got a lot of great stories to jump into today, but I want to start off by saying it's good to be back with spending some time with the family over Christmas. I hope you guys all had a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of that great stuff, but it's good to be back to work here in the office. I do want to remind you guys that this channel is about entertainment and information. All investments have risk. If someone tells you otherwise, they are lying to you. And at the end of the day, I'm just here to bring you the news and talk about what my opinions are. So remember, this is not official financial advice in the least. And if you invest your money in anything, it will have risk. But if you want to hear what I'm thinking on a day-to-day basis about crypto, I have started my own Telegram channel where I'll be updating it once or twice a day to say what I'm currently thinking about the world of crypto. So if you want to check that out, the link is in the description below. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and talk about Ripple. What the fuck? I am not a huge fan of Ripple. I've been saying that on this channel or on social for a long time. And I'm starting to learn about the way that these cryptocurrency groups work on the internet. When something gets hot, everyone bandwagons, and then the guy that says something mean or wrong about it, everyone piles on and gets angry. You don't know Ripple. You don't know Bitcoin Cash. Litecoin's the future. I want to take a step back, take a deep breath, and if you do like Ripple, you might want to leave. But we do have to give a little credit where credit is due. Ripple has had quite the 2017, kicking the year off at 0.6 cents. Having flashbacks to that Verizon phone call.
$0.002.
Do you recognize that there's actually
0.002 cents?
Yes. Do you recognize there's a difference between those two numbers?
$0.002 and $0.002 cents.
Yes. Is there a difference between?
They're both the same if you look at them on paper-wise.
No, they're not actually.
That means that Ripple has bout tree 50x'd this year. Pretty good. What has been kind of interesting about Ripple's growth is that for most of the year it was breaking about even, and then it had periods of extreme growth, most notably from March to May, and then also in December of this month. Other than that, the coin overall wasn't gaining too much traction, but basically headline stories have seemed to accelerate this price tremendously. We saw Ripple secure some deals with various banks back in April and May, and now we're hearing about Ripple all over the place. We're hearing about Ripple potentially being on Coinbase thanks to this video somebody leaked about maybe Coinbase adding Ripple. You might be at home thinking, okay, it's going to add to Coinbase, so what? Why is that a big deal? And the reason is that it's a really powerful piece of information whenever a new coin gets listed on a major exchange. And the reason is because when that coin gets listed, generally speaking, there aren't a lot of people there trying to sell because you couldn't deposit the coin up until that point where they did enable the wallet. So there's not really a lot of people selling, and then everyone that has money on that site can buy. And generally speaking, on bigger exchanges, we're talking about many millions of dollars that now have the option to purchase the new currency. And I think you all can guess what happens when a lot of people with money have the option to buy something. That's right, Beanie Babies. That was actually a thing. This is actually kind of a problem right now, though, in crypto, because the markets are so unregulated. There is really nothing illegal about knowing that a coin is going to get added to an exchange, then buying it preemptively, knowing that the price will rise. And this is actually something that I hope long-term we do start to see more regulation develop. I know everyone doesn't like regulation. I'm not saying that I hope that the government gets really involved in the crypto space, but come on, like the people that have a lot of money that know this is going to happen. Let's say that you were an owner of Coinbase and you knew that in 2 days, Ripple was going to get added. Well, you could go huge on longing Ripple knowing that it's going to surge. And because that money is primarily in Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin, you can also kind of short those currencies knowing that that money is going to flow from those coins over into Ripple. It's way too much power for certain people to be able to have. And it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to do to combat that moving forward. Personally, I think maybe exchanges should allow some period of time between announcing and actually adding it to kind of diminish that power. We saw this effect take place when Bitcoin Cash was added, where for some mysterious reason, a day or two before it was announced, Bitcoin Cash started pumping. It's like people knew. I wonder how. In fact, after the Bitcoin Cash debacle, where people clearly knew that it was going to be added to Coinbase and bought accordingly, the CEO decided to take a look in and see what was going on. Or at least he promised to. Means something, right? It is tough to know if it's Brian Armstrong's fault that this happened, but realistically, when we're talking about the biggest exchange implementing a currency, there have to be at minimum hundreds of people that know. I mean, you have to get the back-end support for the wallet, you have to prepare all the marketing, you have to think about the plan for which ones to add, there have to be meetings, there has to be strategy. And so basically at some point you have to tell 500 people or 200 people or 1,000 people or whatever the number is, you have to say, hey guys, you know this information that could double almost any amount of money or more that you put in, will almost for sure win and is anonymous on the internet. But you know what, can you please not do anything with that? Kind of reminds me of the South Park episode where everyone agrees to not look up each other's internet history.
If we can all agree to resist the urge to look up other people's internet histories, Maggie, okay? As long as we all respect each other's privacy, darling, then our town won't suffer the same fate as Fort Collins. And what are the police gonna do to make sure people don't use it? I know I'll certainly respect others' privacy, but what about people like Laura Tucker the Blabbermouth?
Excuse me?
We've kind of got carried away from Ripple here. I want to bring it back and talk about Ripple overall for a moment. Look, like I've never bought Ripple. I've shorted it a couple of times along the way. I don't really believe in the premise. And I'm not a big fan of how large of a pre-mine that happened on this coin. Look, 62 billion of the 100 billion market cap or total supply of Ripple are owned by the founders. Think about how much power that is. There's around 5 trillion-ish US dollars in circulation. Maybe it's a bit more or less now, but imagine if a small group of people had 62% of that. Think about how much power that would give a very small group of people. And in some ways, that amount of centralized power, that kind of feels like the opposite of what crypto should be about. It should be about decentralizing some of the power structures that we see in the world, and instead it's very much centralizing them into a coin where 62 billion of them are still owned by the people that started Ripple. So I definitely dislike that. And then from an investing standpoint, these guys are going to release these coins. I think they said they're going to release around 1 billion a month. What do you think is going to happen to Ripple when every month 1 billion more Ripple are added into the circulation? The way that inflation works is that when more money is printed, then the money becomes worth less because there's more of it out there. That's actually one of the great things about Bitcoin. It's capped at 21 million Bitcoin. It will not be more than that. But additionally, no individual person has so much of the currency that they could flood the market. Now, yeah, there are definitely people that if they sold a lot of their Bitcoin, it would crash the market to some extent. I think about the Winklevoss twins as people that could have a severe impact on the market, but they don't have 62%. They have probably only a few percent of all the Bitcoin, if it's even 1% of all of the Bitcoin. So, I don't like how centralized it is. I don't like how it's going to become, there's going to be a lot of inflation on the price over the course of the next few years while these Ripple are released. And I'm just not a big fan of Ripple, guys. I'm not saying it's going to fail because it absolutely could succeed. And crypto these days is the Wild West. If you would ask me, Doug, will Ripple be number 2 in total market cap today? I would have laughed and said no. This year it started off at almost nothing. Here we are today. They do seem to be able to secure large deals. They do seem well networked. And maybe it'll work, guys. Ripple does have some upside in that, you can send extremely large amounts of money very quickly. And that's a problem that we're seeing with Bitcoin that Ripple does have a solution for. Whether Ripple will succeed or fail, it has become the second biggest cryptocurrency, briefly passed over $100 billion in total market cap, surpassed Ethereum. So whether or not it's going to work, it's definitely a player in the space today, and we're going to be keeping an eye on it. For our next story tonight, we're going to be talking about ICOs, or initial coin offerings. Now, if you're not very familiar with cryptocurrency, we have these large coins that are currently dominating the space, and then we have a lot of new projects coming up. It's not really a surprise that given how well some of the larger coins are doing, we have a lot of people coming up with new ideas to try and build their own currency that can one day be very successful. Now, most ICOs are complete and total garbage, but there are some good projects coming up in the space. One thing almost all ICOs had in common until recently was that they were built on top of Ethereum using ERC20 tokens. Basically, they would use Ethereum as a way to build their token on top of it as a way to transact it. Now, these tokens typically they represent future value. They represent what the currency will eventually be, but for now, they're kind of a placeholder. Generally speaking, it's a lot easier to create a token than a cryptocurrency because you don't have to start your own cryptocurrency from scratch. You build it instead on top of another blockchain. Ethereum has had a stranglehold on the ICO market, mainly because of their addition of smart contracts that allowed these tokens to be created. So basically, Ethereum has been the coin, the currency that was used this entire time for these ICOs, and now we're seeing some new ones come up that could potentially take that role. The two biggest platforms for that are coming up are Cardano, which has surged massively over the last couple of months, and Neo, which was formerly known as Ant Shares, but has come up this year as well. Over the last several months, I've been getting more into the ICO space myself, and I've actually invested in a couple of ICOs that are using Neo. This includes Apex and Deep Brain Chain. Now, I do want to say, guys, that when it comes to talking about what I personally invest in, especially in some of the smaller market cap stuff, I just want to be honest and straightforward because it's kind of a weird thing where if I try and promote what I'm doing, obviously the value increases, but I do believe in it or I wouldn't have invested it to begin with. So I'm always going to try and do my best to let you guys know what I think about something. But you know what? ICOs are risky and you really shouldn't be involved in this space unless you're willing to take some pretty significant losses. I'm not sure where the direction of ICOs is headed. I don't know if it's going to be on Neo or Cardano or if it's going to generally stay with Ethereum. But I can say that I don't think it's good for Ethereum for these other platforms to be offering this now, because the problem is I think a lot of the price a lot of the buying of Ethereum has come from people that want to get involved in ICOs, and now if people are buying other currencies to get into that space, I don't think we're going to have the same demand for Ethereum. Now, there is a lot at play here. I'm not saying that means Ethereum will go down. I just don't think it's good for there to be other platforms kind of competing for the same space. Our next story is not a positive one, but it shows that you have to be careful in the world of cryptocurrency. Recently, the CEO of XMO, Pavel Lerner, was abducted in Ukraine. A weird thing about the abduction was at the exact same time the site was hit with a DDoS attack. It's not known if that was related to the abduction or not, but it certainly does seem correlated. EXMO was able to reach Pavel on the 29th, 3 days after his kidnapping. He has yet to release a statement, but apparently he is now safe. And you know what, guys? Like, I hope we don't see that much of this in the world of crypto. Like, obviously, a lot of good things happening with crypto, but there are also people that own an exchange or a CEO for an exchange that have lots of money that can become targets. So I guess we're gonna have to see what happens from here, but try and be safe and be smart. And finally tonight, Bitcoin Cash price has been dropping since people were allowed to sell it because the network went back up. We actually here at Crypto News reached out and found a Bitcoin Cash enthusiast and want to ask him what he thinks about the issue.
What do you think? I like
Bitcoin Cash.
All right.
Fascinating stuff there from the world of Bitcoin Cash. That's going to go ahead and do it for us today. Hit that subscribe button, guys. I'm back. It's going to be a new year here on the channel. We got a lot of exciting crypto news stuff to get to you. So hit subscribe and join the team.